Hey, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on the location from where you're watching this video. Um, First of all, thank you for being a part of this presentation, and I hope you are doing well along with your families. Welcome to the session of Apex Hours, where we're going to be talking about the dark art of Salesforce demonstration. Um, just a little bit about me. So my name is Jigar Shah. I am a Salesforce MVP. I am also the Director of Technology at Eternus Solutions. We are a platinum consulting partner with Salesforce. I am a Dreamforce speaker and also have had the good fortune and opportunity of speaking at multiple global dreaming events like Tahoe Dreaming, Texas Dreaming, just to name a few. I'm 5X certified. I co-organize sessions of Apex Hours and Path to Code along with uh, you know Amit, who's been the captain of our ship for Apex Hours. Um, and I do blog not so frequently, but yeah, on Learn SFDC with jigar.wordpress.in. After the session, if you still want to get connected with me to talk about some of the topics that we're going to be discussing today, or you want to, anything that I can help you with from a Salesforce standpoint, just feel free to reach out to me or at jigarsha189, which is also my Twitter and LinkedIn account. Now, with that, I'm going to quickly talk about the agenda for today. So today's agenda mainly revolves around, some of the common questions that I've, received or, experienced in the past from, people like you and me who could be part of this conversation. So often, when you talk about a Salesforce demo, it is merely just showcasing something, right? But and especially us being developers or techies, we don't really know why is it relevant and what is the impact that it has on our users. So we're going to be looking at that, and then we're going to be talking about 5 guiding principles which help us provide an effective demonstration. And these principles are general guiding principles, so you could apply it to any area, any vertical of a Salesforce demonstration, and even extend it to general demonstration of other stacks. Uh, yeah, and these are certain nuggets of wisdom that I have collected on the way during my experience as a developer, lead solutions consultant, architect, you know, pre-sales consultant. I've been donning many hats. Um, so yeah, that is what I would be really talking about. And of course, we're going to be looking at tips and tricks. These smaller tips that help improvise and make our demo look amazing and awesome, right? So with that preamble, I will kind of get started here. So I think, like I said and talked about, it is often this question that I've been receiving, saying that why do I need to know about Salesforce demos? Is it relevant to me, or why is it even relevant to me, right? And I'm assuming that people who are watching this presentation at any point in time are belonging to one of the roles that I've kind of listed. So probably I'm assuming you are a developer or an admin, with an organization which uses Salesforce, or with a consulting partner. You are a Salesforce architect, or you're a Salesforce product owner at your organization, and you often have to go and reach out to your stakeholders where because you're innovating on the Salesforce platform, you got to go out and demonstrate these features. Or one of the most common areas, by far, which is a very customer-facing role, is being a sales or a pre-sales consultant, right? Especially from the technology side. So why and technology people often have this question saying that why is it relevant to me? Because my job is to code, or my job is to architect, or my job is to build out declarative tools or maintain the system. Well, the answer lies, so it's much deeper than that. Even while playing this role, while you code or build maintain the system, or build features using declarative artifacts or architect solutions, it is important to understand that you are building this out only one and one person, and that's the customer or the client, right? And it is only the face that changes. At times it could be an internal stakeholder, at times it could be a new prospective customer for a sales pre-sales consultant, at times it could be a user business user who's going to be using the features that you develop as a developer or an admin or solution, the architecture for a solution, right? But all in all, uh, demonstration is something that you would end up doing, right? And hence it is extremely important and relevant to know about, one, how to demonstrate it, and how to really create a wow in your customer or client's mind while you deliver this demonstration, right? So if I really talk about once you've answered the why part of it, saying that why is it relevant to me as a technical solutions consultant or a technical developer or an architect, I also we also need to understand the fact that the actions that you perform during your demonstration really affects your users, right? And it is important to know the kind of effect that it has on your users, right? And broadly, if I had to categorize our users or clients, I would really categorize them into two major buckets. One of the buckets under which they would really fall under is basically the existing users. Now, these are users who've been using Salesforce for quite some time. They are aware about Salesforce, right? But there is a lot of innovation happening within your Salesforce org, and as a result of which you go out and demonstrate features, solutions that come in to these users. These are often business stakeholders or internal stakeholders that you call them as an organization, and often these are direct users of the system, right? What really happens is when you demonstrate a new feature or a module, there is often a human trait of not accepting anything at the first go. Okay, often there is a rigidity, and this is a typical end user mindset. So an effective demo really helps build that acceptance in the user's mind for accepting a Salesforce feature or module, right? It creates that excitement, for them to go around and use this application or feature that you've built, right? Or you're demonstrating as an admin or a developer that you've come up with. And how this all really ties up is eventually this excitement, this acceptance leads them into using the feature and hence the system, and as a result of which you are driving user adoption. Now, a lot of us may not be aware that user adoption is a key perspective of any system. Once a system is kind of implemented as or has gone live initially, right? Because while you have implemented the system and it could be the best of the engineering feats you have, if there are no users who are actually using the system, um, it's not really going to bring a lot of value or add a lot of value to any organization. Hence, uh, a good demonstration of any feature really helps or elevates user adoption and helps ROI, which is often a question asked by the exec team or the leadership team of any organization, right? The second bucket that I want to talk about, which often is affected or is at the receiving end of a Salesforce demonstration, is typically people who are either deciding, or are referred to as potential Salesforce users or are new Salesforce users, right? And they often, you often do a demo with them purely to give them a understanding or an identification of how the solution could fit their current business processes. It helps them understand, or it helps influence a buying decision. I mean, I've known of uh, experiences or customers where a customer really bought a solution because the demonstration was top notch, right? While it may not be the only factor, but it is certainly a big factor in that creates an impression in the customer's mind, in terms, and aligns him or inclines him in making a decision around buying a certain product, right? Similarly, for architects or especially for pre-sales guys who are watching this, it often acts as a funnel for helping you gauge and understand the business challenges and requirements. I often tell uh, my customers that while we are doing a demonstration is also a tool that helps identify and understand the customer's business requirements. So because this helps him open up, and when your demo resonates with your customer, it definitely helps him open up, and he's definitely put forward his points or ask questions, which tells you or gives you loads of information that can be used uh, in terms of your discovery, or you can use those as cues to initiate a discussion during the requirement discovery phase, right? So with that, I'll kind of um, talk about one of the first guiding principles of uh, doing a top-notch Salesforce demonstration, and that is nothing but customer centricity. Like implementation, this principle remains unchanged, and even when you're doing a Salesforce demo, customer centricity should be at the heart of the demonstration. And what does that mean? It basically means that trying to put yourself in the customer's shoes and trying to understand uh, what he or she does on a day-to-day basis, right? And often when I talk about this, the question that I get asked is, "Hey, how do I do that? Especially remotely, um, how do I understand? It's very difficult to understand. A lot of times the answer that I get is users are not very open to talking about what they're doing. So it's a fair point, and the way you can actually address that using during a demonstration is by understanding the concept of user personas. I think user persona is a very important concept which is critical to not only implementations, architecting a solution, but also during a Salesforce demonstration. Because in a nutshell, a persona is basically a collection of users of certain type. Now when I say collection, what I literally mean is, if you look at any kind of solution, it will have a certain set of users who would be the typical users of the system, and they could span across different functions of an organizations. They could be spanned or segregated based on their nature of work, right? And hence, understanding the designation role or the department or the function that a particular user belongs to is often essential, right? Now this doesn't mean that if you have, let's say, a thousand users of your system, you will have thousand user personas. No, that's not the case, and we'll talk about that. It is a bifurcation or segmentation of your users into certain common buckets, which typically do not extend beyond uh, 10 to 20 in case of a very large complex organization, right? And often when you say you're capturing or detailing out a user persona, what is it that you're looking for? You should look for these typical 5 pointers. Of course, the snapshot here talks about a typical customer support persona. So this guy is a typical service rep. He has a certain designation which tells his influence or the nature of his activities. He there are certain bit of motivations which basically mean that is what is going to make him happy to use the system or use something that you use the solution that you're designing. It talks about the technology aspects, which means that it tells us the affinity of a certain group of individuals or group of users in terms of using the technology, right? For example, if there is somebody who's probably aged 65, and I'm not being judgmental over here, but definitely this is an observation, they would be less um, um, inclined to using technology because they've been operating in a certain way for a very long time. So this tells you that if you're designing for an application or even a demo for somebody with that age group where most of your employee, in a certain persona stands in that age group, that means you have to be really careful about a lot of things, the user experience, right? It tells you that your screens have to be simple. It tells you that they do not have any background in technology, which also means that there will be greater training effort. So there are a lot of points that you deduce and are able to relate to your users as a result of your user personas. Now, once you've kind of chalked out your user persona, it becomes a whole lot easier to put things into place, because now you have a context of what your user is going to be like, what does he do, what is the age bracket that he is in, what is his technology affinity, and hence what are the typical asks that are going to come from him, right? So when you really talk about user personas, the way you can actually do it, or imbibe this in your Salesforce demonstration is by creating, of course, multiple users and set up a couple of profiles or role hierarchy, right? And the way you could actually imbibe this in your demonstration is by going to any of your users. And since you've set multiple users, there is a small feature in Salesforce which talks about granting access, which you could use here. And in this case, and the way you could actually do it is if you click on the specific user, right, and you would go to user settings, right, you have the ability to kind of talk about grant account login access. So when you create multiple users, you could grant access to an admin. So while you're still demoing as an admin, you could impersonate those respective users from the user screen, which gives you the ability to associate different user personas, right? With the other way you could also do it is through a Google, by setting up profiles in Google Chrome. So if you're using Google Chrome as your browser, it allows you to set up profiles. I already have a couple of profiles set up here, but you could go out and add profile, and you could sign in with that, profile, which helps you, switch between users. Or the other way is, of course, to have multiple users logged into the same instance, uh, uh, you know, using an incognito window of the browser. But that's where it adds a lot of context to any user who is actually looking at your Salesforce demo, right? Um, and with that, what I've also done is I've tried to put in some of the most common user personas that you would come across in your regular Salesforce demonstration. Now, this spans across multiple focus areas. And what I've tried to do is map it with the relevant products and what are the most common personas in those, with those products. So, for example, if you would be giving a demonstration of a sales cloud, or if you would be giving a demonstration of a service cloud, these are the typical personas that you would encounter. So if you're typically looking at sales automation, that usually the products that fall under that umbrella is usually either it is the internal sales team, which could be a combination of the inside sales rep, which is nothing but the demand generation team who are responsible for actually generating leads. And then it could be the field sales team with people on the field or account execs who actually go and talk to the customer, taking the information that has been generated by the demand generation team, right? Of course, they are headed by a sales manager and a sales head, so that is more of the hierarchy. There will, of course, be an executive leadership, right? At times, depending on the vertical and the price sensitivity of the product in that vertical, you would also end up having a pricing manager, right? Similarly, at times a lot of organizations extend their sales with the help of channel partner teams, right? Which means that there will be a play of experience cloud, and there will be people like distributors or dealers or typically agents, for example in the real estate domain, or channel partners who would actually be the people or the potential users of the system. Which means that when you are giving a demonstration around this area, it is advisable to create users of these profiles and giving them permissions or showcasing features which are relevant to this, right? It is, and usually what happens is when you're organizing a Salesforce demonstration, you would know who are the people attending the demonstration by looking at their profiles or their designations. You would be able to map them right over here in these personas, and as a result of which you can connect with each of them better, right? Similarly, you could do for service, quote to cash, e-commerce, marketing. So these are just general. I'm sure there are a lot of other personas beyond this, but I think this gives you a good head start in terms of understanding and identifying who and what a user persona is, and how you could really leverage those user personas in your demo and actually use them to connect better with the stakeholder or person in the audience who's viewing or experiencing your demo. Now, the next principle is one of the most important principles, one of the simplest to imbibe, and has a longer effect or a longer association, or it resonates well with your customers, is purely or that of tailoring and personalization. Now, when you're giving a demonstration of, let's say, an example of Sales Cloud, right? And you would give it for let's say you're giving it for a potential client or for your existing customer, which is ABC Consulting, right? uh, you would of course emulate their existing uh, you know capabilities, so that you can tailor the same Sales Cloud to make it look like more relevant to the customer, as a result of which they can relate better, which means, and the gold mine to where you can start getting this information is nothing but the customer's website. So often it's a good idea to go to the customer's website, get their customer logo, understand their products and services. At times, they detail out their products, which could be a great idea, where you could use some of the names and set them as products in your demonstration, which could be used to add a lot of relevance, right? Similarly, things like localization. So if you're talking to a customer, or or you're featuring demonstrating a feature to your user who's based out of UK versus somebody in India versus somebody in the Middle East, language plays a lot of um, uh, you know uh, uh, relevance, adds a lot of relevance, and helps them connect better, right? So at times you might want to um, you know fine tune the user interface in a local language, or you could fine tune the currency, because often we know that if you look at a Salesforce demonstration, mostly the currency is always in USD, right? Now, in this particular case, we might have kind of tailored it, so you can actually go out and tailor it, use the currency management feature to enable multiple currencies, and use that in the context to give the user the confidence that it can be tailored or personalized to their needs, right? The other way to also do that is, often if you're doing a web to lead form, you can actually make that web to lead form look like a customer's, something that has been uh, plugged into their customer's website. And the easiest way to do it is, you can emulate that by taking a screenshot of the customer's website screen and putting it as an image file on the web form. Now this gives the illusion of the person looking at it that the screen is actually it's actually my website, and that adds a lot of interest, and that brings the connect that the user on the other end who's looking at the demo is able to relate to it. Okay, so this is often an important and an interesting aspect. The third most important principle, and I've seen this often. Everything in the world is time bound, right? And so are our Salesforce demos. Now, um, if somebody asks you to demonstrate a Sales Cloud, and the reason why I keep going back to Sales Cloud is, that's one of the most common products that most of the people have worked in. So they would be able to kind of relate to this. But this, like I said, this absolutely applies to any and every other product. It could be a field service, it could be a CPQ, it could be a bespoke expense management solution that you've built using the Lightning platform, right? Uh, Often it is only those 20% of the features that your users tend to use in any kind of solution. Just taking the example of your, mobile phone, you might have a very swanky new, iPhone or the new Android phone, but the features that you use are very typical. It could be email, it could be WhatsApp, it could be social media, right? So there is a defined usage and a defined set of features that even your Salesforce business users would end up using. And often what happens is, it is important to identify those 20% features, right? Because that is what will resonate well um, with your users or customers who are actually looking at your Salesforce demonstration, right? And often we miss out on those aspects, right? Now, the reason why I say it's 20%, because that helps you curtail time and showcase what is relevant and align your demo in the context of the user. So, I take this example often where I'm looking at a Salesforce opportunity right here. Now, this comprises of multiple stages, right? So if I am going to be demonstrating an opportunity, not necessarily I would have to go through each stage, right? You could just go from qualification, which basically results or comes in through a lead conversion, and then you could jump on and talk about the whole quote creation process, right? And how this quote can be created, generated, and how this ties in with your deal, and in case of multiple quotes. And then you could quickly move on to the loss stage, giving them a probability of how the solution can help in, even if a deal is lost, how could this solution help them? So, uh, this helps you save time and focus on those key important features, right? Like for example, another simple feature is a guidance for success. Now, this is a brilliant feature which helps from a user adoption standpoint, helps you shorten your training time, because the solution itself is telling you what are the parameters you need to go into a certain stage. What are the parameters? What does this stage imply of? And what is it that you would move to once you kind of achieve this milestone in from a sales deal standpoint, right? Follow feature, another amazing feature, which is again a brilliant feature, right? People want to look at. So for example, if I'm talking about accounts or opportunities, right? They could simply follow it, just like follow the respective opportunity or account in the context of, I mean, they'd necessarily not go and look at it every time, correct? So you know get those 20% features, and that way you will be able to stick to time and really demonstrate features which your users need and are actually using on the ground, rather than trying to showcase which is probably a good to have but doesn't really resonate or appeal to them, because that is not what they're going to do in the real world, right? So um, it's rightly said at times that users often ask for what they want but do not ask for what they need. So it is understanding what their need is and aligning this 20% features of demonstration to their need, right? And that brings me to another important point, is the you know often when somebody looks at any kind of solution, they're always looking at what is the benefit that they're going to get out of that solution, right? So, and often we as technology people who build the feature ground up, or have built the solution ground up, are focused on demonstrating the features. So it is imperative to ace your demonstration, you need to highlight the benefits and not the features. So it is not merely forms and buttons that you're showcasing. It is the benefit that the user derives out of that form, button, or any feature. That is what is important. So it is important to tailor your message using benefits, rather than positioning it or showcasing it in the form of features, because that doesn't go well. Even if it goes well, they don't really get the understanding in terms of what's the advantage of using a feature, solution, or an application that you're demonstrating to. So a quick example would be, if you are using the follow button over here, right? And if you simply follow this particular account, or sorry, opportunity, or this specific account, now this acts as a great feature for key account management, right? Often organizations do tend to segment their customers, or customers who are at the top of the highest revenue generation for them. They prioritize them in some form or the other, right? And as a sales guy, it is often a need for him to stay on top of what is happening with his most important customer. Now this could be because it is strategically it is more important. It is important for him because it's giving him the highest revenue, highest margin, whatever it could be, right? But rather than just showing or telling the user that, hey, you could use this follow button, right? Tailoring the same message to say, hey, you could use this for account management, where you could stay on the top of your game by knowing what is going on with your key customer, right? If there is a number change, or if there is a website change, or if there is an addition in terms of certain contacts, or if there is an inclusion in terms of services, this all can be received simply by using the follow button as an email, which gives you a daily feed. Now this gets your sales users excited, because now you know that you are reducing his effort and time that he would otherwise be investing in making sure and going through each of his important customers, right? So it is extremely important that you tailor your messaging to showcase the benefits and not the features, right? And one of the last and the most important principles, see, while uh, putting together a Salesforce demonstration is like cooking a recipe, right? You may have the best of ingredients, which we saw as guiding principles as some of the previous points, but unless you use those ingredients to come up with a great recipe, right, it is not going to appeal to your user. Similarly, you got to take all this principles and join the dots together to present a very convincing and relevant story. Now, what does a story mean to you? A story is nothing but a flow which highlights the interactions of different user personas across the life cycle of usage, right? And it may not cover each and every use case, because you're not focusing on looking or showcasing every feature button form. It is about setting the context and relevance of how your feature is going to benefit the user base for a greater good, right? And hence it is so very important that without this, even if you followed or used the rest of the principles, it doesn't give that wow, and it doesn't um, help your customers connect with your demo, right? And what I so this is an example of a field service story, which is right here, right? And you see that there are typical user personas that are there, right? And so there is a customer user persona, of course, and then there is somebody who's a service agent, then there is somebody who's a dispatcher. So in the field service world, when issues kind of come in or transpire from the customer, there will be a service agent who will be the first touch point for the customer. The service agent, depending on the complexity or the resolution nature of the resolution required, it could actually go to a dispatcher in this case, who's somebody could be the from the back office, who is actually responsible for scheduling visits or work orders for typical people in the field, and these could be field engineers, field technicians, right? So how does the flow transpire? So once a customer raises a complaint, how does it transpire and cause a field engineer to visit him resolving the issue and bringing the complaint to closure? While once you set this up and you align your demo in this context, there is a context in terms of who the users are going to be, how the flow is going to work, what is it that the user can do or cannot do, and this connects well or resonates well with your user base, because now they exactly know who are the people involved in this complete interaction, right? So with that, a few quick tips and tricks in terms of acing your Salesforce demonstration. I think it is very important to structure your demonstration, right? Unless you structure your demonstration in terms of having a right prelude and an introduction, going through the demo with the help of a user story uh, involving user personas, and then at the end of it, providing a finishing statement which helps the person or the audience in the demo relate to what you are actually doing with the solution and how it can help them to solve their problems, right? And of course, like I keep saying, a demonstration is a tool to interact with the customer, and it helps to get them speak, right? And as a result of which, every demonstration should be followed up with a question and answer round, which helps give a ton of information and most of the times brilliant nuggets of wisdom in terms of requirement discovery, feature ask, really come in through these kind of conversations, right? Other very important thing is, it is important to showcase device responsiveness, right? And as a result of which, you make sure that if you're showcasing a desktop versus a mobile application or versus something that has to do with an iPad, you demonstrate it on those devices during the demo so that people can really experience it rather than just listening about it. And um, very important that as a best practice, make sure that you always reboot your devices, because at times a lot of issues that occur, or that at least I have experienced, can be resolved by a simple reboot of your respective devices, right? So very important. uh, but even after that, let's say things go wrong, and because of which uh, you're not able to demo it, make sure that you have screenshots of your respective demonstration or flow, which in case of jeopardy helps save the day for you, and that doesn't stall you from really completing your Salesforce demonstration. Last but not the least, one of the most important tips and tricks, or is absolutely a no-brainer, is practice makes a man perfect, which means that unless you practice your demonstration, you're not going to be able to deliver a wow, right? So with that, I'll kind of conclude this session around delivering an immaculate Salesforce demonstration. Uh, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me on my Twitter and LinkedIn accounts, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Uh, and these are just some of our Apex our handles. Please do follow them. We've been receiving a lot of love across the globe for the sessions, and thank you to all the speakers across the globe who've had the time and who've taken the effort to contribute as speakers um, to this channel. So thank you once again. Do take very good care of yourself, and we'll catch you soon in the next upcoming sessions of Apex Hours. Thank you.